Welcome to the 360-degree mobility mega show here in Taiwan. Behind me is one of the most comprehensive mobility shows anywhere. It's actually 3 shows in one: Taipei AMPA, eMobility Taiwan, and Autotronics Taipei. But we'll talk about 5 pavilions and show some of the really awesome things behind us to show you why this is a show you have to attend if you're in the industry and the world of mobility. Let's go. This is the Taiwan EV Industry Pavilion, and center stage right up front are classic examples of the partnership collaboration that this show in Taiwan in particular has to offer. This right here is Cruise X. This is a startup here in Taiwan that builds a modular platform for EVs. So let's say you're building a refrigerator truck or a last mile delivery truck or an RV. Where do you start with a project like that? Unless you're ready to spend 10 or 20 years and billions of dollars, you could start with a platform like this, and all you have to worry about is what happens here. They've already sorted out the motor, the drive controllers, the batteries, cooling. You could start with a platform that has so much smarts built right in already. And the collaborations run even deeper. See up here? These cameras are made by a company called Chime Motor. Now they specialize in small form factor compute to power AI intelligence. The future of mobility isn't just electric, it's about being smarter as well. And they even incorporate really cool things like DMS or driver monitoring systems. Let me show you a cool demo of how that works. This is their bus simulator. This right here powers the DMS system, and you can see it's monitoring my eyes to make sure that I'm not getting sleepy, detects the different passengers and pedestrians on your route, and it brings all these different features together. This is what the mobility of tomorrow will look like. Here's another great example of collaboration. This is Tailift, Taiwan's premier forklift manufacturer. They're actually in a partnership with Toyota, and this right here is purely electric. And now there's some really great benefits to that. Where do you use forklifts? Well, indoors in warehouses. And that's where the air quality improvements of something that's purely electric would be huge. But there's more benefit than that. In a diesel forklift, you have to keep the engine idling all the time to power the hydraulic system. The hydraulics is what drives this forklift up and down. But in an electric version, you have none of that. You can run this fork whenever you need it and then move it around, and all the while, the batteries stay idle and silent. Here's a fun fact. In 2005, when Tesla was building the Roadster, they had a hard time finding a supplier to make the motors. And they actually went with a Taiwanese company called Fukuda. And in fact, about 30 to 40% of the entire supply chain of the Tesla Roadster, the original one, came from Taiwanese suppliers like this. And today, Fukuda makes everything from motors for SUVs, EVs, all kinds of stuff in modern cars you'll see driving all around the world. This is the Foxtron Pavilion. Now, if you haven't heard of Foxtron, I can almost guarantee you have something in your house made by them. Every Nintendo console since the GameCube, Apple iPhones, AirPods, Amazon Kindles, some of the latest and highest tech gadgets you own are made by them. But today, we're talking about Foxtron, their latest joint venture with Taiwan's oldest car maker. One of the most amazing things about EVs is packaging. You can build everything from that crossover over there to this bus. The joint platform part is largely common. Now, cars made from the Foxtron joint venture are already on the roads today, like the LuxGen N7 on Taiwanese roads right now. And Foxtron has even announced their first global OEM partnership with Mitsubishi, building EVs for Australia and New Zealand coming later in 2026. When you build everything from the latest smartphones to cars and everything else, you become a manufacturing powerhouse. In many ways, Foxconn is like the story of Taiwan. If you need to get the most cutting edge manufacturing in whatever it is you're building, this is probably a great place to start. The more I walk around the show, the more I think I know a car that comes from. I mean, you start to see how we build modern cars today. You know where that comes from as well. All the way from headlights and taillights to littler things like switches and door regulators, right? All those little components come from companies like this. So in the course of watching this video, I bet you'll recognize where a lot of the awesome things in the cars that you probably own probably come from. Modern cars could have hundreds of computers within it. Modern EVs could be over 1,000. But when you bring all these sensors and all this technology together, you get some pretty amazing features. For example, leave the HVAC system running for your pets if you leave them in the car, or an alert to tell you if you left your children in the car, or if someone's broken in. And there's even cameras and other sensors to detect biometric data to tell you if you're having a health event, to safely pull the car over before something bad happens. And that's what the AI Car Pavilion is all about. Some of this great on-the-edge AI tech to bring smarter car tech to everyone. When I came to the show the very first time, 250 kilowatts is considered fast charging. But this cabinet here is air-cooled, and it supports a total of 640 kilowatts. The first cable, 400 kilowatts to the first car, 240 to the second car. But check this one out. This is a single terminal, and it's liquid cooled. And this one cable provides 640 kilowatts of DC fast charging. At these speeds, you can potentially fill up your battery pack faster than a gasoline fill-up. You ever wonder how they validate for the automotive environment? One of the most complicated parts is vibration. All cars have to build systems that are rated for vibration. This is vibration source technology. They sell the machines to do the testing. You can imagine how much fatigue happens right about there on this bar after many, many, many cycles of fatigue. So before any system can be verified to go into a car, it's got to be ready for the vibrations. This is Wouter, and they actually build OEM plug-and-play dash cams for cars. And what makes it really cool is look at the integration. It fits right into different car models. The camera goes right there, and it fits right in, so it has that stealth, sleek feel. And with modern cars and their fastbacks and low rear visibility, you can have models that have this built right in. And check out the integration with Tesla. The Tesla cameras stay where they are, right there. And then you had added higher visibility cameras that you can record all around nonstop. Along with battery electric, there's also hydrogen energy. And hydrogen is fascinating. It is the lightest element in the universe. And as such, it has a lot of pros and cons. And it's a fascinating engineering challenge. For example, storing it in its gaseous form is actually pretty complicated. Check out this carbon fiber weave. This is really difficult to keep hydrogen from just escaping from whatever vessel you try to store it in. But this is the traditional hydrogen storage tank. Now, this technology is pretty mature. Like this truck behind me is a hydrogen fuel cell truck. Toyota, for example, has been making hydrogen fuel cell cars for a while now. So this fuel cell takes the hydrogen stored in that tank, combines it with oxygen, and produces electricity. And the only waste product is water, which is amazing. That's the promise of why it's so cool. But hydrogen is also complex. Just look at how much engineering goes into the system behind me. But check this out. This is hydrogen. And this machine in front of me actually produces hydrogen. So you just fill water as the one input, and it runs through its proton exchange membrane and produces hydrogen. But what's interesting is, rather than storing that hydrogen as pure H2 gas, which is, you have to compress it really, really tight to be able to store any kind of energy density, they store it in this, a metal hydride. And this container here is storing hydrogen. Just like this, it's filled with metal hydride, and the hydrogen is actually matriculated inside of it. When you need to release the energy, it comes out just like normal hydrogen. But the really cool benefit of this is it's much safer. If you've ever seen those puncture tests, this is some of the safest ways you can possibly store hydrogen. And this golf cart right here is actually running on hydrogen. Check this out. These are those metal hydride filled containers, and you can just pull them out and slip them in. Now, this is probably the closest thing I've ever seen to like hydrogen storage at home. You could charge them in cartridges like a battery, swap them in and drive around. It even has a little H2 gauge right there. But this is pretty amazing. I've learned so much about hydrogen from this pavilion. Whenever you need the highest possible energy density per weight, hydrogen is awesome. The challenges are packing it tight enough in a small form factor to not take up too much space, the volumetric energy density. But there's so much amazing research going on, all the way from how we store it, new containers and new fuel system methodologies, all the way to different catalysts and membranes to break the hydrogen, the oxygen from water to get hydrogen in the first place. This is the Taiwan Telematics Industry Pavilion. Now, 20 or 30 years ago when I was a kid, a car just was expected to get you where you were trying to go. But today we expect a lot more from our cars, a lot more intelligence, right? Letting us know where we are we safe, keeping us in our lanes, and telling us if we left our children in the back seats. And this pavilion is all about the telematics, that extra data layer that takes all those sensors and inputs and produces useful intelligence. This is Advantech, and they build the computer hardware for various kinds of sensors for industrial applications. We're talking big buses, excavators, right? Cranes, forklifts, that sort of thing. And there's all sorts of different types of inputs that it can take. For example, this is a thermal imaging camera. You see how I'm nice and red hot. It's a hot Taiwanese day here today. But that is computer vision overlaid with thermal data to give you a sense of hot points on a picture. This is LiDAR. You can kind of see I'm blocking the picture here, but this LiDAR sensor is shooting out lasers, getting the bounce and mapping out an image of the world. LiDAR has some really unique advantages. It can tell the shape and the geometry of things at a distance with really good resolution. Now, this is not as useful as a camera to people, but for computers, this can give you a lot of information, and a lot of industries, autonomous vehicles and things, might need to rely on that. And then you've got traditional cameras like this. We've shown you some of the driver monitoring systems like this. It's watching my eyes, my mouth. If I'm looking down on my phone, it'll give you alerts. If I'm getting kind of tired or blinking too much, it'll let you know all that kind of information. And it all ties into the same exact hardware down below. But check this out. Now, I love logistics, and I've always wondered, how do shipping containers get to where they're going? This system is camera-based, and it is actually looking for these ISO numbers that all shipping containers have. Now, if you had to have a person do this, you can imagine how hard it would be and how expensive it would be. But these systems are mounted on cranes and autonomous robotic vehicles, driving around and tracking these numbers to let you know where everything is, which orientation the container is in, to help make sure it gets loaded to the right place, to get to the right place. This is the sort of technology that makes our modern lives actually possible, if you think about it. GPS technology has come a long way from the 90s when I was a kid. It was a pretty rare thing, but now everything has it. But there are certain companies like these behind me that make this more accessible. This, for example, provides RTK, real-time kinematic information, to give you like centimeter precision. Interestingly, GPS is only good to about 3 meters, but other industries like farming or mining might need higher precision. Like if you're gonna cultivate crops in a line, you gotta make sure you get that right. So these are the kind of companies that you would go to for that sort of information and GPS stack. As an engineer, I'm always fascinated by how we build things. Like the thought of building a car or a rocket seems impossible until you realize it comes down to all the suppliers. There are companies with expertise in every little thing that you might be building. So if you're in the industry or you want to meet partners and suppliers for your next big project in mobility, you got to come to 360-degree mobility mega shows here in Taiwan. There's probably a little something for everybody. I've seen pretty much everything you need to make a car entirely here at this show. So it happens every year in Taiwan. And if you're thinking about coming next year, can't recommend it highly enough. All right, see you next year.